Alright, YouTube, so we are back, of course, to talk about, well, probably some Final Fantasy VII Remake. And what we have today, admittedly, I'll tell you right out the gate, is a pretty weird video. I don't even know right now what I'm going to title it. I don't even know what the thumbnail is going to be, but it's something I've wanted to discuss for a while. It's something that has bothered me ever since I've seen the final cutscene, the final ending segment of Remake. It's just bothered me, man. So at the end of Remake, we get a montage of a lot of important scenes that we don't entirely know the significance of yet. Obviously, we can all interpret it different ways, as we talked about plenty of times on the channel. But realistically, we're not going to know the significance of a lot of these scenes until Part 2 and beyond. Now, as good as this final segment is, in my opinion, there's one part of it that was quite jarring on my initial playthrough that kind of pulled me out of the moment. Like, I set the controller down, I'm watching this final segment cutscene, trying to soak everything in, pay attention to every little detail. And then this happens.
Thank you.
Did you happen to catch it? I would hope so. So during the final cutscene, we see people cleaning up the Sector 7 slums that were destroyed, obviously, whenever the plate fell down. And we see these average, everyday, nobody NPC characters lifting these goddamn steel beams that are used to build buildings. I said near the beginning that this was going to be a pretty weird video topic, but I'm sitting there soaking in this final cutscene, right? We just defeated Destiny and Fate, the physical embodiment of Destiny. I'm trying to pay attention to this final cutscene, and I'm seeing this malnourished guy who's living in the poor slums of Midgar just fucking deadlifting onto his shoulder what has to be 600 to 700 plus pounds of steel, like it's nothing. And I was confused. I verbally said, what the fuck was that? If you replace those characters in that scene with Jules and the other buff dudes from the Wall Market Gym, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. If Cloud was to lift up one of these steel beams on his shoulder, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. If Bear did it, yeah, I get it. Hell, even if little old Tifa threw up a steel beam on her shoulder, I would not question it because, well, we've seen her suplex God before. I've said before multiple times that I think Remake is full of important smaller details, especially with that final segment. After we defeat the Whisper Harbinger, the whole final cutscene I think is very, very important. I can't say so much that this itself is important. It's just weird and jarring, my dudes. Like, the Square Enix developers have to know how heavy something like that is. Even on the smaller end of things, because these steel beams aren't as big as something that you would use to build like a skyscraper, for example. Even on the smaller end of things, these steel beams would be like 450 plus pounds or something. Which I'm sure you as a human being who's used your arms to lift up things in your lifetime would know that it's not easy to do. Especially to lift up 450 pounds plus to carry it, much less throw it up on your goddamn shoulder. Now, it is a video game, and these are video game characters, but the people within Sector 7 slums are meant to be relatively helpless as we actually patrol for the monsters in the area, right? These are supposed to be, I guess, scary monsters that are actually pathetically easy.
Depends. What does this neighborhood watch do?
Lots of stuff, really. But our top priority is taking care of any beasts that wander into town.
If everybody in the Sector 7 slums are this strong, why do they need protection? Why do they need avalanche? Why do they need mercenaries? If they ran up to one of these monsters, if a monster charged them while they're in town, they could just punch the goddamn thing and it would turn into fucking paste. My thing too is, like, this would be different if this was something that we were told or something that we read. Like, in an interview somewhere, a developer was like, man, the people in Sector 7, wow, they sure are strong. It's like, okay, that's kind of weird. But, like, this took development time. They had to animate this. They had to create these characters, create these steel beams, right? They had to specifically make that scene right there to show you in-game, which is why I find it weird and why I think it could have some sort of significance. I cannot possibly tell you what the actual relevance is. There is a possibility, and this is just me trying to justify it. There could be a lore reason for it. Maybe it's a Mako thing. They're in the slums. Maybe there's some sort of Mako runoff, right? Just in the slums in general, coming from above the plate. Or maybe specifically in Sector 7, that has some sort of effect on the regular population. So maybe like subtle Mako exposure can make regular people like pretty strong. Because obviously if you're exposed to too much Mako poisoning, we already know that. So maybe that's the explanation. I don't know, because they could have shown these characters just picking up basic debris, right? It could have just been rubble, rocks, wood, things like that. But they specifically show multiple characters lifting up what should be hundreds and hundreds of pounds of steel on the shoulder like it's nothing. There's a reason for that. They specifically put that into the game for a reason. I just don't know what it is. Anyways, dudes, that is pretty much the video. It's not a super serious video today. It's more laid back, if anything. But it's something I've wanted to kind of get off my chest and talk about for the last, 7 months, dude. It stupefied me. If that's the word I can use. So definitely want to know your guys' thoughts on this. Whenever you played the remake for the first time, you got to the ending segment. We just beat the Whisper Harbinger. Destiny's destroyed. Fate's gone. We see that Zack is possibly alive, right? Zack, from the original game, who's supposed to be dead, is possibly alive in the remake timeline. Holy shit, cannot believe it. And then we see these absolute units in the Sector 7 slums, just strong as fuck. What's up with that? What did you think of that? Is it something that you even noticed, man? Because it didn't, ruin the ending for me. It didn't affect the ending in the slightest in that way. But it pulled me out of the moment for a second. Because I swear to God, I verbally said, what the fuck was that? And that's why I feel like there's some sort of relevance or significance to it. And outside of Mako, I don't know what the relevance would be. And that's maybe all that it is. Or maybe the devs just don't realize how heavy that shit is. Anyways, my dudes, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you guys are new with some more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter, @David. I'm on Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more. And nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain or leave it like Cobain.